It was 4:17 p.m. on the coldest day of the year. Snow painted the streets white, and everyone stayed indoors, except for 12-year-old Amara carrying groceries with numb fingers. That's when she saw him, a man in a suit, gasping, clutching his chest, collapsing in front of her. No one stopped. No one cared. But Amara did. She threw her bag to the ground, yanked off her scarf, and knelt beside the stranger. "He's dying," she whispered. "I have to save him." What she didn't know was this man was a billionaire, and saving him would change her life, and nearly cost her everything. Amara Jenkins was no ordinary 12-year-old. Petite, soft-spoken, and sharp-eyed, she'd learned to be invisible, not by choice, but by survival. Her foster parents, Ma and Logan, were cruel behind closed doors, all fake smiles in public and harsh words in private. But Amara never complained. She had a quiet strength. That day, the air was so cold, it stung like needles. As Amara trudged through the icy sidewalk, her thin gloves soaked and her coat barely thick enough for fall weather, she saw the man fall across the street near the subway entrance. Panic rippled through the few people nearby. Most just glanced and kept walking. But Amara ran. She knelt beside him. His face was pale, lips turning blue. She saw the inhaler fall from his coat pocket and rolled under a bench. Without hesitation, Amara dove for it, grabbed it, and forced the cap off with trembling fingers. "Sir, you need to breathe. Focus on me," she said, gently lifting his head and administering the inhaler, like she'd learned in her school's first aid workshop. Within seconds, his breathing stabilized. His hands were still shaking when he opened his eyes and whispered, "Thank you." His name was Richard Lancaster, CEO of a multi-billion-dollar tech empire, featured on Forbes, owner of more real estate than Amara could ever dream of. But in that moment, he was just a man who almost died, and she had saved him. When the ambulance arrived and Richard was stable, he grabbed her hand. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Amara." "Your parents must be proud," he said, smiling. She hesitated, then offered a quiet nod. He took out a sleek black card. "Please, I want to give something to your family. Anything." But Amara stepped back. "I don't need anything. My parents provide enough." He watched her turn and walk into the snowy street, groceries in hand, disappearing like a ghost into the fog of snow. He didn't know her last name, no address, no number. But he couldn't forget her face. 2 days later, Richard told his assistant to track her down, and that's when the calls started. Ma picked up the phone and, without missing a beat, said, "Yes, that's our daughter Amara. She told us everything. She just didn't want the attention." They played the perfect family act. Warm smiles, proud tones, humble words. Soon Richard was paying off their mortgage. Then came a new car. Then private school tuition, even though Amara still walked 5 blocks to the underfunded public school. Amara never knew about the money. She only knew that Ma was suddenly more obsessed with clothes. Logan stopped working, and there were parties every weekend. Parties Amara wasn't allowed to attend, and the abuse got worse. "You made us look poor," Ma snapped one night, slapping Amara for the tear in her hand-me-down jacket. "You almost blew everything," Logan growled. "If he ever finds out the truth, we lose it all." Amara cried herself to sleep on the cold attic floor. No blanket, just a towel. She tried to remind herself to be brave. That maybe, just maybe, someone good would come for her. She didn't know it yet, but fate was already moving. Because in a downtown restaurant, Ma was about to make a mistake so loud, so public, that Richard would hear every word, and everything would begin to unravel. The Italian restaurant glowed with soft jazz and candlelight, white linen tablecloths, waiters in bow ties. Only the wealthy could afford a table here, and now Ma was among them, thanks to Richard's unknowing generosity. She wore a red fur coat, 2 sizes too big and diamonds too gaudy to be real, but they weren't fake. They were bought with blood money. Money, she said, was for Amara's future, but Amara hadn't seen a single cent. Richard, dining in a private booth with investors, spotted her across the room. He didn't recognize her, but her voice carried like a storm. "I told that brat to keep quiet," Ma shrieked at the waiter who refused her another bottle of wine. "We gave her a home. She should be grateful." The word brat echoed across the room. A few heads turned, including Richard's. "Is there a problem, ma'am?" the manager asked. Ma scoffed. "No problem. Just tired of playing mommy to a little charity case." That was it. Richard stood, eyebrows furrowed, his investor conversation forgotten. He walked up to her table. "Excuse me," he said slowly, "but did you say your daughter's name is Amara?" Ma froze. She gave a crooked smile, but her mascara was smudged, and her wine-glossed lips trembled. Yes, that's our sweet little girl." Richard's eyes narrowed. "Funny. She never mentioned your name. And the girl I met, she didn't look like someone who had all this." He waved a hand at the expensive jewelry, the plated steak, the crystal glass of wine. Then he turned and walked away. Silent, but not unaware. The next morning, Richard's legal team froze all support. Bank accounts, tuition, rent, gone. He made one call to Amara's school. She wasn't enrolled in private education. Another call to a social worker. Another dead end. Everything the parents claimed. Lies. Richard was furious, not because he'd been fooled, but because Amara had been used. That night, Logan stormed in with a bottle in one hand and a belt in the other. "You ruined everything," he slurred. "He cut us off! Do you know what that means?" Ma grabbed Amara by the hair and dragged her across the living room floor. "You ungrateful brat!" "No, I didn't do anything!" Amara screamed, but the blows came anyway. Then Logan threw her into the storage room beneath the stairs and slammed the door shut. Darkness. Cold. Mice in the corners. No food. No hope. Until Amara found the loose floorboard. She pried it open with a rusty nail she'd hidden from previous punishments. Beneath the board, instead of earth or pipes, was a narrow tunnel. Old wood. A crawl space that must have been built generations ago. She crawled through the damp passage, whispering prayers under her breath. Rats scattered as she moved, the light from cracks in the wood barely enough to see. Then she heard voices. It was Ma and Logan. They were in the living room arguing. She pressed her ear to the wall. "She's becoming a problem," Ma hissed. "She should have died with her real parents," Logan muttered. Amara's heart stopped. "What do you mean?" Ma asked. "You know what I mean. We killed them, remember?" Logan said flatly. "That car wasn't an accident," Ma gasped. "Shut up. If anyone finds out, they won't. Unless she opens that mouth of hers. We need to end this. Tonight." Silence. Then, "Do it in the woods. Say she ran away, like her daddy." Amara fell back, shaking. They killed her real parents, and now they wanted her dead too. Amara crawled back through the tunnel, hands bloody, lungs tight. Her mind raced. No one would believe her. No one ever had, except maybe Richard. She'd seen a business card once, hidden in Ma's desk. She snuck out, barefoot, silent. Found it. Richard Lancaster. Emergency line. With trembling fingers, she called. He picked up on the second ring. "Hello?" "Mr. Lancaster?" she whispered. "It's Amara. I need help. Please, they're going to kill me." Silence. Then his voice changed. "Where are you?" She didn't even know the address. Just a park name nearby. "Oakview Trail. Behind the house. Hurry." He didn't ask anything else. He just said, "Hold on, Amara, I'm coming." She dropped the phone and crept toward the back door. Footsteps thundered above. Ma was coming. So was death. But so was something else. Salvation. Because Richard wasn't coming alone. He was bringing justice.
The moonlight shimmered through the trees as Amara sprinted barefoot behind the house, heart pounding like a drum inside her fragile chest. Every breath felt like fire in her lungs. Behind her, she heard the creak of the back door and the crunch of boots in snow. Ma's voice rang out. "Amara, get back here!" Logan followed with a shovel in hand. "Run all you want, girl. No one's coming for you now." But someone was. just as Ma raised her voice again, shouting curses into the air. Blinding lights cut through the trees like knives. Headlights, engines roared, then came shouting, deep, commanding voices. Hands where we can see them. Drop the shovel. Richard's security detail, 6 heavily armed men in tactical vests, rushed from black SUVs, spreading through the woods with flashlights and radios. Ma screamed. Logan tried to run. A bodyguard tackled him into the snow like it was Sunday night football. Richard sprinted straight past them, scanning wildly until... Amara! She stepped into the light, shaking, covered in dirt and bruises. He dropped to his knees. You're safe now. And for the first time, Amara cried in someone's arms without fear. Police arrived within minutes. Ma and Logan were cuffed, dragged through the front yard screaming, "You owe us, Richard! She's nobody!" But the officers weren't listening. Inside the house, investigators uncovered everything. The fake private school records, Amara's bruises, a hidden stash of cash, and, most damning, a burned letter from Amara's real parents. DNA testing later confirmed it. The accident wasn't an accident. Logan's fingerprints were found on the brake fluid container. First-degree murder charges were filed, and Amara was finally freed. Days later, Richard stood outside the courthouse, a hand resting gently on Amara's shoulder. The media flooded them with cameras and questions. "She saved my life," Richard said firmly. "Now I'm returning the favor." He filed for legal guardianship that very week, not for show, not for a headline, but because deep down he knew something powerful. This little girl wasn't just a hero, she was family. A tall, poised woman walked out of a children's hospital in a white coat that read, Dr. Amara Lancaster, MD, Pediatric Trauma Specialist. She smiled at the tiny patient clinging to her stuffed bear and handed him a lollipop. "You're braver than you think," she said. In the hallway, a picture hung on the wall, a 12-year-old girl kneeling in the snow, saving a man's life. Underneath, a quote, "No one's too small to make a difference. You just have to care enough to try." We live in a world where greed disguises itself as family, where the ones meant to protect us sometimes hurt us most. But Amara showed us something different. That love can find us in the most broken places. That courage doesn't come from size, but from heart. And that no matter who you are, you can rise from pain and become something extraordinary. Because the little girl they tried to destroy, she became the woman who saves lives every single day.